Hello and welcome to the starred episode of Dr. VGP Podcast that reaches 42 million households, including 2 million households across America. The Global Eye magazine is the fastest Indo-US weekly today with over a readership of 38 lakhs every week in India and 95,000 readers in America. Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show. We are pleased in this Star podcast to feature one of America's greatest leaders who's rocking from coast to coast. You have heard his name. He ran for the President of the United States. Later on, he was appointed by President Donald Trump and endorsed to be the DOJ co-chief. And today, he's President Donald Trump's candidate for the governor for the state of Ohio. Meet in this face-to-face, exclusive, insightful, inspiring interview with Vivek Ganapathy Ramaswamy, the man who's a phenomenon, an Enigma, and a person to look out. And believe me, my viewers, he is going to be the first Indian-American president of the United States of America. VGP's podcast that reaches 42 million viewers across the globe, including 2 million in North America. We are having our star guest today, who's well known throughout the globe, Vivek Ganapathy Ramaswamy. Thank you so much, Chief, for joining us among your busy schedule.
It's great to be here.
And it's a grandson of Palghat from southern part of India. It's so wonderful to be sitting with you at the Dr. VGP podcast and to learn about your candidacy for governor of state of Ohio.
Thank you.
You ran for the president of the United States. You're creating waves across America. You were mobbed at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee after President Trump. And I think the people are ready, not only in Ohio, the whole of America, to follow you. And they're wanting to hear about you, your vision for Ohio, vision for America, and also how the President Trump's administration is what the people of America voted for.
Sure.
So go ahead, Doctor.
Well, look, I think that the reality is I've never been more optimistic for the future of our country than I am right now. But that's not going to happen automatically. It's going to take real leadership to get there. And if President Trump is successful in the next 2 years, and I predict he will be, that means many of the federal programs in Washington, D.C. are going to get shifted back to the states and to the people where they belong. So what I predict is, starting in about 2 years, the center of gravity of saving this country, of reviving America, is actually going to shift to the states. So when I look myself in the mirror, and look, all of us have a calling in life where we have to ask ourselves deeply, how are we going to use our skills to do what's right, and maybe have some fun along the way. That's where I landed on the governorship of Ohio as the right next step for me. I was born and raised in Ohio. I see an opportunity for Ohio to set a standard for the rest of the country, to become the leading state in the country. And I think if you have a governor with a spine, somebody who's ambitious, with real vision for the region, then I believe we're going to be able to accomplish that. And I hope that will not only help save Ohio, but help save the country
Set
as a whole.
the role model for the rest of the country.
Exactly. And that's how the United States works, is different states, if you look at the last few years, let's be very honest, it's states like Florida and Texas that have led the way economically and culturally for the United States. The number 1 and 2 states to move into today are Florida and Texas. Ohio's number 38. I want to lead Ohio to number 1, and I want to do that in a way that sets standards on educational achievement, for example. We can talk about that. On economic development, that now the rest of the country can follow Ohio rather than the other way around.
You're absolutely right, Vivek. I'm sure the people of Ohio are looking forward to how you would structure the healthcare system, the education system, with your new transforming innovative ideas and policy of governance. Now, you have been a successful business entrepreneur yourself with the Rivon Science pharmaceutical company. You hit the headlines, you became a millionaire or billionaire, and then you chose the political path to allow the other Americans also to achieve the American dream. At what point, when did you realize in your successful career, only 39 years old, that you achieved the American dream?
Look, I mean, the American dream isn't just about green pieces of paper. It's
Correct.
about
Well
every
said.
person realizing their own sense of purpose and mission and even duty in life. And for me, that started with capitalism. I believe capitalism is the greatest system known to man to lift people up from poverty. And I was always drawn to founding companies, starting companies, especially the early few years of getting a company off the ground. That was always my passion. So I founded Roivant, which certainly is the largest and most successful of the businesses that I've built. But the other companies I've founded more recently, many of them are doing well as well. Chapter in the Medicare space, Strive in financial services, and so on. So there's other businesses I've also started. But at a certain point, I realized that that American dream, it isn't going to exist for my kids and their generation unless each of us step up and do something to actually preserve it. There was a story, I guess I'll tell you the story, when in May of 2020 woke me up. So in February of 2020, we had our first son, Karthik. My wife, Apoorva, she's herself a throat surgeon at Ohio State. Our boy Karthik is now just turned 5 years old.
5 years, wow, wonderful.
So he was born in February of 2020.
Great.
And that was just an eye-opening moment. I mean, obviously, it was in the thick of COVID. There was a lot going on in the world and in the country at that time. But it made me look at the world a little bit differently. And I sort of found myself doing a lot of long-form writing. I see you with a pen and a notepad. That was me. And I didn't know where it was going, but eventually that became the sketches of a book that I wrote. But it really came to a head in May of 2020, when there were a lot of protests across the country after George Floyd's tragic death. And nonetheless, there were tragic riots, really, protests ravaging across the country in the midst of our lockdowns, a national mood that was darker than any I had remembered in my life. Mm-hmm. And I offered a statement to my company to say that, you know what, get to work safely. Our mission is to develop medicines, and we're going to remain focused on that. And what I realized is at that time, that courted some great controversy because every biotech or tech CEO was expected to say the same exact thing about, in that case, the BLM movement, which, is a separate controversy unto itself. So I took a unique corporate stand that said the job of a company is to focus on its own mission. And the fact that that created such a controversy really opened my own eyes to say that we believe we have freedom of speech in the country. And yet it didn't feel like I was actually free to express my opinion. So I wrote a book. The book was called Woke Inc. Inside Corporate America's Social Justice Scam at the time. And for me, there was no better way of discovering my own beliefs than to write that book and to write down what you actually believe. I had an 11th grade English teacher who said that if you can't write it down, then you don't know what you actually believe. And I would say that that was sound advice. And the process of writing that book helped me get into this realm of
enlightening to hear what you're saying and how you groomed yourself and how you wrote the book and the circumstances so well said. Now, the GOP and the Republican Party and yourself has to attract the Generation X and the millennials. How will you go about doing that? I know that you're attracting young leadership like yourself, 39 into the GOP and the Republican Party. Looking into the future, I think that's what the country needs. Young leaders like you, do you have a kind of a strategy or a plan to attract them? Or what's your message to them to get ready like you?
I do think that we need a new generation of leadership in a wide range of roles in this country. I don't know if I would be the youngest governor in Ohio, but I might be, actually.
Yes.
I haven't looked that up, but it'd be pretty close to that if not. And I think that's a good thing. I think we need leaders with fresh legs at every level. Young people are looking for authenticity. I mean, they don't really want standard stuffed suit politicians who are just reciting the slogans they memorized 40 years ago. A lot of young people are skeptical of the American dream, in part because they were loaded up with 4 years of college debt that didn't end up giving them the head start on the American economy that they were promised. We had wars, really, that were fought in places like Iraq and elsewhere that really didn't achieve what we were promised to have achieved while loading up on a national debt that now falls on the shoulders of that next generation.
Absolutely.
A $36 trillion national debt with interest costs growing by the day. It's actually not going to be really even your or my generation that bears the greatest brunt of it, but the next generation, Gen Z, that does. And so I think that recognizing that cynicism that so many young people have had towards our country and the American dream, recognizing it, but then to channel that to say that we can't be cynical about our country. It's the best country that we have yet to actually aspire to live in and to serve, to channel that cynicism into a more positive attitude. That's something that I'm aiming to do in my own leadership of the state of Ohio. So not a fake optimism, but an authentic optimism grounded in recognizing the challenges that our young people face, while at the same time pointing not to grievance or victimhood as the answer.
I like your VPAC. Victors, not victims.
Victors, not victims, has been
It's beautiful.
of mine for a while.
It's
right?
fantastic tagline.
It's Americans,
yeah,
right?
it's fantastic.
I mean, it's who we are, because hardship is not a choice. Hardship
Yes.
is something that happens to you in life. It happens to all of us at different points. Victimhood is a choice.
Right.
And we in America, we don't choose to be victims. We choose to be victorious.
You beautifully, very well said.
Thank you.
Now, Vivek, do you think the American media has been harsh on you?
Of course.
Why?
But I'm not a victim.
You're a victor.
Yeah. But
Correct.
look, if you're gonna run for president at the age of 37 and you want
Yes.
to lead the country at the highest levels, you got to be ready to take what comes for you. So, have they been harsh, unfair, even downright untruthful at times? Absolutely. But I'm not going to sit here and cry about it, right? My job is actually we find
You're taking it head on, and that's the challenge.
Find other ways, just like you and I are doing right
Yes,
now.
exactly.
Other ways of directly reaching people. And what I've found is most people, Democrat or Republican, are pretty reasonable, actually.
Correct.
If you can explain to them why you're doing what you're doing. The challenge is the filters that exist that stop us from doing that.
You said so well said. I think that would give the inspiration to everybody else who are being hounded by the media for their ideals. Now, do you think everybody is talking about artificial intelligence? Do you think AI is more a blessing or a threat?
Depends on how we use it.
Good.
So
Very well said.
I'm an optimist, and I believe that if we make the right decisions, this is a great opportunity to unlock greater human productivity in a way that accrues to greater human flourishing and wealth, and beyond wealth, even enjoyment of life as we know it in the good version of this. Now, I want to use AI, for example, in the state of Ohio, not to take jobs, but to make jobs.
Fantastic. Could you say that again?
Absolutely.
And how will you do that? Because that's what everybody is looking for.
Well, it's one of my slogans. Use AI not to take jobs, but to make
jobs.
through workforce training and education. And I see the way in which we've had so much investment that's gone into training the algorithms, but perhaps not enough on training human beings on how to use that AI to actually apply it to their respective fields, from healthcare to financial services to construction design. So I see this as a great opportunity for human flourishing. At the same time, I think we have to be mindful of how we're preparing ourselves for that new revolution. I'll give you a sense in Ohio. It takes about 2 years to build a new AI data center in Ohio.
Wow.
That's great, but it uses a lot of electricity, but that's an opportunity for us. We have to make sure our electric grid is resilient enough to be ready for that, either directly or indirectly. That means reducing the permitting timelines for new natural gas pipeline construction.
And
That
Ohio is a rich state in natural
It
gas.
absolutely is, but it's man-made obstacles that sometimes get in the way.
Yeah.
Power plant construction, it takes 6 years. That should be 6 months or less. So that's on us. Those are man-made problems, and I think every man-made problem has a man-made solution. We just have to have the courage to actually pursue it.
You're absolutely right in your words, and I'm sure that your words should be echoed throughout the globe, what you just said about AI is not to take jobs, but to make jobs.
That's
and
exactly
that's
right.
the message which we will resonate. Vivek Ganapathy Ramurthy. I love the middle name Ganapathy.
Ganapathy.
Lord Ganesha and
After my
Ganapathy.
that was actually my paternal grandfather, and
Profound,
Ramaswamy was the name of my father, and
Yes,
we're proud
Vivek,
of
excellent.
everything we've been given. I
Great.
appreciate it.
Vivek, if you are given control of the social media, what one change would you make immediately, if at all?
Yeah, look, I would say, first of all, I don't want any one person to have control of social media. I actually want it to be decentralized. That was
Good.
rule number one.
Very
Because
nice.
I think that the way things are going to evolve is greater ownership of one's own data sets.
Great.
Right now, what's happening is your own data is being monetized in ways that you don't really fully recognize. I think we're going to see a democratization of the ownership of data, which I think is the next frontier.
Great. If you're given an opportunity to take 3 people from the past to present out for dinner, who would those 3 people be?
Oh man, we got to really got to give that one thought. Thomas Jefferson would be
Great.
on my list.
Thomas Jefferson,
He wrote the
fantastic.
Declaration of Independence at the age of 33. Mahatma Gandhi for sure.
Great.
I just want to understand what moved him, right? That sense of motivation.
When he was pushed out of the compartment in Johannesburg, from the first class compartment. I think
know. That's a story that's told, but I want to hear it from him.
Correct.
We
Good.
never have that
Excellent.
chance, of course. And number three, let me give that some thought. I mean, I think it depends on how far back you want to go.
No, it's up to you. It's your heroes, your mentors,
Yeah.
because the people want to know, what is this Enigma, the
I would
phenomenon
say
Vivek
Marcus
Ramaswamy? Marcus Aurelius. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Back in ancient Roman antiquity, he was a great thoughtful leader of what was a school of thought known as, associated at least with Stoicism. I want to understand what moved him, what moved Gandhi, what moved Thomas Jefferson. And I think that to bring that into an American context, that's really what
Fantastic, fantastic. Chief, if you are given 3 words to describe yourself, what would those 3 words or adjectives be?
Grateful, energetic, impatient.
You just heard the phenomenon Vivek Ramaswamy describe himself as grateful, energetic, and
Impatient.
Impatient. My God, that's very powerful. The first guest on my show who was described as impatient. He's ready to run. On that note, we thank you, Vivek, for joining us on the Dr. VGP talk show and podcast with your powerful, inspiring words which you said. And I'd like to repeat the 3 words you described yourself: grateful, energetic, and impatient. You're impatient to run. On that note, I'm sure 8 years from now, after J.D. Vance, next president, 2 terms, we'll have the first Indian-American president. I don't know which year that would be, Vivek Ramaswamy. So you're impatient, going to be the next governor. He's running for the governor of the state of Ohio. The elections are 2026. On concluding, we'd like to, your wife, you talked, Apurva ji, is part of the, is a physician practicing, and your 2 sons. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Lastly, if you could give a message to all our viewers, whatever you'd like to talk about, what's the need of the hour, tell them how triumphant our President Trump has been and what all is to look forward. It's all yours now, Vivek. Thank you.
I would just say, in a nutshell, our best days are still ahead of us. There's a lot of reasons to be despondent. Don't just sit around and curse the darkness. Don't just run away from something, run to something. Realize your American dream. You have the potential to achieve anything you want to. Your best days and the country's best days are still ahead.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fusion Systems and Services, a powerhouse in innovation, delivering transformative technology solutions. With our groundbreaking cloud-ready product, ITIS, leading the industry as the ultimate RPA solution, trusted by top global enterprises. From mobile application testing to middleware automation, from big data integration to SAP automation, and even Salesforce automation, Fusion Systems is your strategic partner for success. No challenge is too big. No system is too complex. Empower your business with Fusion Systems. Visit us now at fusionsystems.inc.com and revolutionize your future.
Dear viewers, elevate your business to new heights and reach 35 million potential customers with Global Eye Digital. Contact us today at globaleyedigital@gmail.com or info@globaleyedigital.com. Let's take your business global.